In Tunisia, 2 men from France have died when a pair of ultralight aircraft collided in mid-air. More details on this later in the news.
Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
And I am Nina Richie Elago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. PCG joins trilateral maritime drills off Bataan coast. Typhoon Betty decelerates at northern Luzon. Former Senator Bola Tinubu is sworn in as Nigeria's new president. President Joe Biden and Speaker Kevin McCarthy close deal to prevent U.S. debt default. And largest human bicycle in Chile breaks world record. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. inaugurates Pier 88 at Liloan in the province of Cebu. Madeline Villar Moratillo has the details.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. praises the local governments of Liloan and Cebu province for pursuing good urban planning and development practices. The president attended the grand launching of Pier 88 at the municipality of Liloan in Cebu province Saturday. Pier 88 is a 3-phase port and commercial development that serves as a marine highway linking Liloan to the rest of the island and neighboring provinces. The president notes that the Pier 88 holds promise to become a local economic hub.
Today I stand together with the people of Liloan for 2 very significant and important reasons. We witness today the grand launching of Pier 88, which shall offer a faster transport alternative for passengers and for cargo, and holds promise to become a local economic hub.
The president emphasizes that the project is a prime example of good urban planning. He urges that these kinds of projects should be replicated across the country with flawless collaboration on the provincial and national levels. Pier 88 will be Cebu's first smart port incorporated with a smart port system that features an automated ticketing system, quick response codes, and radio frequency identification system to be applied in a mobile application. Madeline Villar Moratillo reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
G7 leaders support President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s call for countries to abide by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea or UNCLOS. Eren Santos for the report.
On Saturday, Malacanang reported that the 2023 G7 meeting and the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue Summit in Japan ended with results supporting the Philippines. Japanese ambassador to the Philippines, Koshikawa Kazuhiko, confirms that G7 leaders will confront global challenges using international legal frameworks. Kazuhiko adds that G7 cited the sufficient legal basis of Beijing's expansive territorial assertion in South China Sea, while they beef up military forces in that region. The G7 asserts that the Arbitral Tribunal award rendered on July 12, 2016 is a significant basis for peace resolution of disputes between the parties. Earlier this month, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. urged South China Sea claimants to abide by the international laws to ensure peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. The president stresses that South China Sea must not become a center for armed conflict. He adds that the Philippines will remain firm in upholding and protecting its entitlement under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea or UNCLOS in the West Philippine Sea. Eden Santos reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Philippines, Japan, and United States will hold their first ever joint Coast Guard exercises this week. Randy Bernardino files this report.
For the first time, the Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, will conduct trilateral marine exercises with the United States and Japan. PCG spokesperson Rear Admiral Armand Balilo says nearly 400 personnel will join the exercise, with half of them coming from the PCG. For training, the Philippines will deploy the BRP's Melchora Aquino, Gabriela Silang, and Boracay. Additionally, a 44-meter multi-role response vessel will also be part of the formation. The United States will dispatch its cutter Stratton, and Japan will send its warship Akitsushima.
The scenario would involve law enforcement activity. Merong target vessel na aakyatin ng mga law enforcement team, and then pagkatapos noon ay magkakaroon ng search and rescue exercise. Small boat operations, helicopter.
The joint Coast Guard drills will be held from June 1 to 7 at Mariveles, Bataan. Rear Admiral Balilo says the three countries aim to strengthen the interoperability of their coast guards through communication exercises, maneuvering drills, and search and rescue operations. The trilateral drills will also demonstrate situational drills when they encounter a suspected vessel involved in piracy.
Ito ay paghahasa ng kasanayan ng mga participating teams dito sa Philippines at maging sa Japan at sa US.
Balilo also asserts the trilateral drills are not related to the issue of China's increasing aggression in the West Philippine Sea.
Wala po. Ito po ay regular na ina-exercise ng both countries. Hindi nga lang Japan Coast Guard, US at Philippines. Dati kasi Philippines, US, Philippines, Japan.
Randy Bernardino for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Kuwait will negotiate with the Philippines over the suspension of visas for overseas Filipino workers or OFWs, if only the Philippines will adhere to the demands of Kuwaiti government. Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs Mansour Al-Otaibi says one of the conditions is that the Philippines should admit that its embassy violated Kuwaiti laws and the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Al-Otaibi asserts that the Philippine embassy must also pledge not to repeat the violations. Meanwhile, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. vows they will continue to negotiate with Kuwait to remedy the situation. The Philippines also insists that providing protection to its nationals abroad is a duty of consular offices under international law and conventions. Earlier this May, Kuwait announced the suspension of visas for OFWs. The visa ban came a few months after the rape and murder of Filipino domestic worker Julabi Ranara in Kuwait. The House Committee on Dangerous Drugs backs the National Police Commission's or NAPOLCOM's proposed shift of strategy on the administration's anti-drug campaign metrics-driven approach. The measures aim to prevent cops from fabricating arrests and seizures for possible rank promotion. Surigao del Norte Representative Ace Barbers ratifies NAPOLCOM's claims that the Philippine National Police system of promotion and assessment of anti-drug police operatives is seriously flawed. The legislator notes that police became accustomed to their illegal operations, which resulted in them being a key component of the entire drug mafia. In October 2022, 49 Philippine National Police officials and personnel were involved in a 6.7 billion peso drug haul in Manila. Malacanang Palace endorses a House bill seeking to revise the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprise Act or CREATE. Chief Presidential Legal Advisor Juan Ponce Enrile notes that the Marcos administration is keen on amending the legislation. According to Enrile, only manufacturers of export goods receive benefits from the value-added tax or VAT zero rating under CREATE. Enrile cites that there should be a distinction between incentives to export businesses. The Bureau of Internal Revenue recently spotted that local purchases of goods are not considered as directly and exclusively used in the registered project, which is not covered by the incentive. The Department of Trade and Industry says e-vehicle stakeholders call on the national government to provide more incentives for the local production of electric motorcycles. JD Mahinay for the report.
Electric vehicle stakeholders are hoping that the inclusion of 2- and 3-wheelers in the EV import tariff break will be made effective under the Executive Order Number 12 or Customs Modernization and Tariff Act. The call was made after the signing of the Memorandum of Agreement between Integrated Microelectronics Incorporated or IMI and Zero Motorcycles on the establishment of the first electronic vehicle motorcycle site in the Philippines, which was witnessed by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. during his official visit to Washington. The pact involves IMI assembling Zero's electric motorcycle models and other assemblies in its facility in Laguna, while the mass production is scheduled to start by next month. The deal is expected to employ 200 workers for its assembly line from manufacturing, packing, and shipping of almost 18,000 vehicles per year. JD Mahinay reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Oil firms announced a rollback of prices in kerosene while gasoline prices are set to increase. Pilipinas Shell and Sea Oil said they will hike prices per liter of gasoline by 1 peso and 10 centavos at 6 a.m. tomorrow. The price of kerosene is slashed by 35 centavos per liter. There will be no changes in the price of diesel. Clean Fuel will implement the same price adjustments at 4 p.m. tomorrow. Typhoon Betty will continue to bring heavy rains and strong winds to some parts of the Philippines, particularly in Cagayan. Signal number 2 is raised over the Cagayan province. To bring us live updates, here is Erlo Bringas from Cagayan. Erlo?
Yes, Nina, the province of Cagayan, especially here in Santa Ana, Cagayan, is still in a red alert status. As you can see, loud and clear, we also experienced the strong winds with the heavy rains. Even the barangays and coastal barangays here experience more of this. Strong winds, heavy rains, and big waves continue to strike the province of Cagayan. Residents here in Santa Ana, Cagayan greeted Monday morning with fear of losing their lives and homes. The Net 25 news team saw people in Kasambalangan Coastal 1 tying their roofs to protect their families.
Nalilipad, sir. Nalilipad itong mga bubong namin. Kasi noon nalipad itong bubong namin, kaya ngayon nagsigurado na kami nagtali. Kinakabahan din po. Binabantay naman po namin yung dagat. Tinitingnan namin lagi kung tataas siya o hindi. Pag tumataas na, lumilipat na po kami.
Oo, sir. Nagsisipti kami ng mga bahay para di kwan yung mga yero.
Para hindi maalis lahat yung kwan po, para may matira pa. Magagamit pa po paglipat namin po. Ilang taon na pong nakalipas po, hindi naman po kami lumilikas pag minsan, pag hindi po lumalakas yung bagyo.
The municipality of Santa Ana, Cagayan already prepared its response program a few days before Typhoon Mawar reached the Philippines.
Marami po ang risky barangay po dito, just like lahat po ng karamihan po dito kasi is coastal barangays. At saka yung mga ibang barangay po ay may mga landslide prone, flood prone po. Karamihan po dito ay talagang nababaha. Sakop po muna ng punong barangay po sa BDRM.
Santa Ana, Cagayan is one of the specified areas of concern in the provincial capital of Cagayan.
Lagi kami handa kasi lagi kami binibira ng mga ganitong sakuna. No, so a series of meeting. Nakagawa na kami before itong maglandfall itong bagyo natin. At saka lahat yung dapat ihanda nandiyan na po. There are people na talagang kailangan evacuate natin kasi very poor yung tinitirahan nila. Napakadali na sa ngayon because of our previous experience. No?
As of this moment, around 486 residents or 140 families in 3 towns have been evacuated to safer areas. 371 of these individuals came from 4 barangays. Cagayan Public Information Office said the families evacuated were residing near the shoreline. Other evacuees were members of the Acta indigenous group living in landslide-prone areas. 111 people or 34 families from Calayan and 4 individuals from Santa Ana were also evacuated. Authorities said the evacuees were moved to different evacuation centers prepared by local government units. The local government units of Ilocos Sur, La Union, and 4 areas in Cagayan also declared cash suspensions tomorrow due to Typhoon Mawar. Based on Pag-asa's bulletin, the center of the eye of Typhoon Mawar was estimated at 425 kilometers of East Calayan, Cagayan. It has maximum sustained winds of 155 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 190 kilometers per hour. Nina, as of this moment, the MDRMO Santa Ana Cagayan is still conducting public information and public dissemination via their social media sites to inform their residents here in Santa Ana Cagayan. Especially also this is also practiced in other parts of this province, especially for those in coastal areas. And no sailing and no fishing policy is still enforced in this province to ensure the safety of all the residents. Nina.
Erlo, thank you so much for those updates. And now we'd like to know, how is the current water, food, and electricity situation in Santa Ana, Cagayan?
Well, Dina, the local government says they prepared enough food packs and water for a family that will last in 3 days. 3 days, and they have already food augmentation food packs and water from a provincial capital. As of this now, there's no reported power interruption here in Cagayan, and the power is still intact for in this province, Nina.
Erlo, thank you so much. That's good to hear. But I'd like to know, you spoke of initiatives taken by the LGU earlier, but what are the biggest challenges for the LGU in terms of evacuation?
Well, Nina, the biggest challenges of the local government unit here, especially for those residents live in nearby coastal areas, is still calm in this situation. Other residents says they will go to evacuation center once the situation is getting worse. Others says they also calculated the situation. If the situation is getting worse, they will go to nearby evacuation centers in their areas, Nina.
Erlo, are you aware of any steps taken by the NDRRMC to help the residents of Cagayan Province prepare for the typhoon?
Yes, Nina, the local disaster risk reduction and management team here in Cagayan deploys additional rescue men from AFE, PNP, even in PCG, aside the men from the LGU, and they also continue to remind the residents here to go to evacuation center in this situation, because as you can see loud and clear, the storm is getting the winds is getting worse. Even the heavy rains is still experienced here in this province, Nina.
Erlo Bringas, thank you so much. Please be safe.
Coming up, Russia launches largest drone attack on Ukrainian capital. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan wins his 3rd term in a runoff. And former Senator Bola Tinubu is Nigeria's new president. Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when we return.
Sama-sama tayong nakikanta, nagsaya at nakipag-summer blast. Maraming salamat sa higit na 120,000 na taong nakasama namin. Walang kapantayang energy at init ng suporta na ipinaramdam ninyong lahat sa amin. Hindi rin matatawaran ang galing ng mga performers na nagpasiklab sa isa sa pinakamasasayang gabi dito sa Philippine Sports Stadium. Taos-puso ang pasasalamat namin. Let's always net together, mga Kanet 25, sa susunod na Summer Blast. Catch the special TV airing on June 10 and June 11, 2023. Follow our social media pages for more updates.
We now welcome you back to Matanang Agila International. The United States and Saudi Arabia have called for an extension of the shaky 7-day ceasefire in Sudan. The truce is set to expire tonight. Thomas I. Likeness for the report.
The two countries brokered the deal during talks with representatives of the Sudanese army and the paramilitary. On Sunday, they said an extension is needed so that urgently required humanitarian assistance can be delivered. 6 weeks of urban warfare have turned the capital of Khartoum and other cities into virtual ghost towns as people are afraid to venture out of their homes. More than 1,800 people have been killed in the fighting. Nearly 1.4 million have been displaced, both within Sudan and into neighboring countries. According to the United Nations, a record 25 million people, that's more than half the population, is in need of humanitarian assistance to survive. Mediators say unless the ceasefire is extended, that assistance cannot be delivered. Doctors Without Borders says it has severe shortages of staff and supplies. It says it may have to suspend life-saving activities if humanitarian corridors do not materialize. Thomas I. Likeness for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
On its fourth straight week, Serbians rallied against the country's government. Tens of thousands of demonstrators protested aside the state-run broadcaster, accusing it of pro-government bias. JC Yumo reports.
The protest began after two back-to-back mass shootings earlier this month that killed 18 people, half of them children. Despite heavy rain Saturday, the crowd formed a ring around the headquarters of the state-run broadcaster RTS. Demonstrators demanded the resignation of the broadcaster's top directors and editors. They also want the government to revoke the broadcast license of TV channels that promote violent content. Other demands include a ban on pro-government newspapers that stir tension by targeting political dissidents. Protesters are also calling for the resignation of the country's interior minister and the head of the intelligence service. JC Yumul for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Japan's ballistic missile defenses are on alert after North Korea notified Tokyo of a satellite launch. Pyongyang has informed Japan's Coast Guard that a rocket will be launched between May 31 and June 11. Sources say the rocket will fall in the waters near the Yellow Sea, East China Sea, and to the east of Luzon Island in the Philippines. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida believes Pyongyang will launch a ballistic missile. Kishida also reiterates that Japan is open to negotiations with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The Prime Minister also instructed officials to gather intelligence, remain vigilant, and coordinate with the United States and South Korea. Japan's Defense Ministry also vowed to shoot down any confirmed ballistic missile that will fall on its territory.
衛星と称したとしても、この弾道ミサイル技術を用いた発射、これは安保理決議違反であり、国民の安全に関わる重大な問題であると認識をしています。我が国領域内への落下に備えて、本日 防衛大臣から破壊措置命令これを発出いたしました。
Russia has launched the most massive attack on Ukraine with Iranian-made Shahed drones just before Kyiv Day. The attack lasted more than 5 hours, with air defense reportedly shooting down more than 40 drones. Despite its small size, the Shahed's explosive charge appears powerful enough to do damage. The drones are fired from a truck launcher in rapid succession and can fly low and slow to avoid radar detection. In Monday's attack on the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, a 41-year-old man was killed and a 35-year-old woman was hospitalized. Kyiv Day is a holiday which celebrates the city's founding and usually takes place on the last Sunday of May. Residents attended live concerts and food stalls that were scaled down from previous years.
Sources say NATO-supplied weapons continue to bomb residential homes in the Donetsk region. RT correspondent Steve Sweeney files this report.
His age, 12-year-old Volodya was looking forward to the end of the school year and a summer of fun and games with family and friends. But his hopes were shattered when a NATO-supplied weapon destroyed his house in a Ukrainian attack. He was rushed to hospital, where doctors fought to save his life. But due to his injuries, one of his legs was amputated.
There was strong shelling while I was sleeping. I was awoken by pain in my legs and fear. I remember that there was a lot of smoke around me. I was afraid to suffocate. I screamed. Then my dad carried me out. I was taken to hospital where I had an operation.
This trauma centre has also come under attack from Ukrainian forces. A number of staff here have been wounded whilst treating patients as the shelling continued. A large number of those treated here have been children. A situation which medics say has worsened with the continued supply of Western weapons.
Recently, residential areas of the city are being shelled more aggressively because they have received more aggressive weapons, and accordingly, the injuries have become more severe. Plus, petal mines appeared, a very dangerous munition. It's practically invisible in the grass, but it can blow off a limb if stepped on. The number of patients is increasing. There's a thing here called Donetsk roulette. No one knows if they'll return alive when they leave their house. The Ukrainians also shelled our hospital. On April 28th, they even hit my office. By some miracle, my patients and I were unharmed. I cannot understand a person who gives the order to shell medical facilities.
Children here have the same hopes and dreams as others across the world. To be free, to be safe, to be happy. But NATO and Western-supplied weapons are stealing the future of the children of Donetsk. This is Steve Sweeney, Donetsk Republic, for RT.
Russian President Vladimir Putin sees an end in sight for the conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Azerbaijan and Armenia are moving towards a settlement to their decades-old conflict over the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. Nagorno-Karabakh is an Armenian-populated enclave inside the country of Azerbaijan, which has been a contested territory since the years leading up to the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991.
Также отметил, я считаю, что есть возможности для выхода на мирное соглашение, тем более принимая во внимание то, что Армения официально признала Карабах частью Азербайджана. Спасибо.
Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and Azeri President Ilham Aliyev had argued for several minutes in Putin's presence during last week's conference.
Что Армения и Азербайджан договорились о взаимном признании территориальной целостности друг друга, и на этой основе, да, можно сказать, мы довольно хорошо продвигаемся к урегулированию наших отношений. Еще хочу отметить.
Putin said the three sides had discussed communications and bilateral settlements in detail. Officials from Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Russia agreed to meet in a bid that ensures all unresolved issues to be cleared.
Как раз говорил о том, что создаются условия в связи с признанием границ соответствующих подтвержденных соглашениями соответствующим еще с 1991 года. И эти условия дают основания полагать, что между Арменией и Азербайджаном могут быть достигнуты соответствующие договоренности, в том числе и по транспортным коммуникациям. Мне очень приятно.
A Belarus top official says Western countries left them no choice but to deploy Russian tactical nuclear weapons. State Secretary Alexander Volfovich asserts it was logical that nuclear weapons were withdrawn after the 1991 Soviet collapse, but he believes all the promises of the United States and its allies are gone forever. President Alexander Lukashenko has allowed Russia to use Belarus as the location for its tactical nuclear weapons.
Договорились, я не буду говорить там о количестве размещений, мы договорились о размещении ядерного оружия. Где, сколько, боеприпасы? Нужно было решение, а решение принимает президент России. Он его принял, точно как обещал.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden admits he feels negative about nuclear arms being stationed in Belarus. Lukashenko says Belarus will be able to keep Russia's weapons safe.
On Sunday, voters in Turkey re-elected President Recep Tayyip Erdogan for a third term. With nearly 99% of the ballots counted, unofficial results show Erdogan captured 52% of the vote in the runoff election. Jane Kathleen Gregorio reports.
Jubilant supporters celebrated outside of Erdogan's house in Istanbul. The victory extends the 69-year-old strongman's authoritarian rule for another 5 years. His re-election has global implications. Geographically, Turkey is at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, and it plays a key role in NATO. Turkey also brokered the deal that allows Ukrainian grain shipments. Erdogan has led the Turkish government for 20 years. Going into the election, he faced stiff opposition as the country tries to recover from February's devastating earthquake and runaway inflation. Critics say Erdogan mismanaged the economy, allowing inflation to soar. Jane Kathleen Gregorio for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
In a rare gesture of solidarity, several of India's major opposition parties boycotted the inauguration of their new parliament building. The building's plan has drawn intense criticism from opposition politicians, architects, and heritage experts, many of whom called it environmentally irresponsible. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi just inaugurated the new Parliament House in the capital of New Delhi by offering prayers.
साथियों, ये सिर्फ एक भवन नहीं है, ये 140 करोड़ भारतवासियों की आकांक्षाओं और सपनों का प्रतिबिंब है। ये विश्व को भारत के दृढ़ संकल्प का संदेश देता हमारे लोकतंत्र का मंदिर है।
Opposition parties criticized the event, saying Modi had sidelined President Draupadi Murmu. The president, who has only ceremonial powers, is still recognized as the head of state and its highest constitutional authority. The prime minister and his Hindu Nationalist Party have ruled for 9 years and are seeking a third term in next year's elections. Modi addressed those present at the parliament, calling the new building a departure from their colonial roots. The old parliament building was built by the British when they ruled India.
साथियों, भारत एक लोकतांत्रिक राष्ट्र ही नहीं बल्कि लोकतंत्र की जननी भी है, मदर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी भी है।
With just days to spare before the June 5 deadline, United States President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy have reached a final agreement. The deal to raise their debt ceiling was described as a rough draft, but was still put up for review. With compromises neither the hard right nor the left wing are willing to support, both leaders are scrambling for the conservative middle to support the bid to avoid the first ever potential government default. The president urged both parties in Congress to come together for swift passage.
That agreement now goes to the United States House and to the Senate. I strongly urge both chambers to pass that agreement. Let's keep moving forward on meeting our obligations and building the strongest economy in the history of the world.
The final product includes spending cuts, but risks angering lawmakers as they take a closer look at the workarounds they have made. McCarthy told reporters at the Capitol that the agreement doesn't get everything everybody wanted, but that was to be expected in a divided government.
Just to take you back to where we all started, back to February 1st, sat down with the president and said, let's work together to be able to raise the debt ceiling, but curve the amount of spending, to let America be able to work again, cut red tape, get some work requirements to help people get back into work. I think this agreement frames all that from limit, save, grow. Doesn't get everything everybody wanted, but that's in divided government. That's where we end up. I think it's a very positive bill.
President Bola Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima have just been sworn in as Nigeria's standard bearers. The ceremony took place in front of his predecessor, world leaders and dignitaries, Nigeria's outgoing President Muhammadu Buhari, President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, and Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa. The oath of office was administered by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Kayode Ariwoola, in the capital, Abuja, despite legal challenges from the country's opposition. Tinubu is a former senator and governor of Lagos State, was declared the winner of the February 2023 presidential election by the Independent National Electoral Commission, or INEC. As Tinubu becomes the 16th president of Nigeria, he declared his primary platform to be uniting a fractured nation, providing economic relief, and combating spiraling border insecurity.
Up next, Belgian aid worker returns home in prisoner exchange. China to send first civilian astronaut into space. And the Netherlands arrests 1,500 climate activists in a rally at The Hague. Please don't go away. We've got more stories when Mata ng Agila International returns.
This portion is brought to you by Final Match Security and Investigation Agency.
Manila, this is Bruno Mars. I'll be performing at the Philippine Arena June 24th and June 25th. Go get your tickets at livenation.ph. I'll see y'all soon.
Susunod sa Counterpoint.
Nung tinanggal ako, inihabla ko na.
Bubusisi natin itong naging desisyon ng Korte Suprema na nagbigay daan upang makatanggap ng mas malaking bahagi ng IRA, ang LGUs mula sa national government. Ano ba itong Mandana's ruling?
Talagang kailangan na sa ganon ang ating mga kababayan matanggap talagang lahat ng tulong.
Makakasama ko si Batangas Governor Ermelando Dodo Mantanas sa Counterpoint ngayong Miyerkules alas 10:30 ng gabi dito sa Net 25.
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders, Quezon City Motor Vehicle Inspection Center.
Belgian aid worker Olivier Van de Castile has arrived in Belgium after being detained in Iran for almost 15 months. The 42-year-old was greeted by his parents, sister, and other family members on the tarmac of the Melsbroek military base near Brussels. Tehran sentenced Vandy Castile to 40 years in prison and 74 lashes for espionage. Iran freed the aid worker during a prisoner exchange for an Iranian diplomat convicted of terrorism. Iran announced that the freed Iranian is diplomat Asadollah Assadi, who was jailed in Belgium over a 2018 plot to bomb an Iranian opposition rally outside Paris. Last year, Belgium and Iran signed a treaty to enable prisoner swaps.
Newly elected Greek lawmakers were sworn in, but the parliament in which they sit may be dissolved in the coming days. No party achieved an overall majority in the past elections. For this reason, the Hellenic Parliament will be dissolved either Monday or Tuesday, signaling the start of a brand new electoral campaign. A caretaker government headed by a senior judge, Ioannis Sarmas, would oversee the next elections on the 25th of June. Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis failed to form a coalition for a majority of the seats, with the ruling New Democratic Party attaining only 146 seats out of the contested 300. Although New Democracy is the clear favorite, an overall majority is by no means automatic. The more parties there are in the parliament, a higher share of votes for an outright majority are needed.
Two men from France have died when a pair of ultralight aircraft collided mid-air in the African country of Tunisia. Two others abroad of the planes have survived. Michael Hudson reports.
The crash happened Saturday in the southern part of Tunisia during a gathering of ultralights. Rescuers found the wreckage of one of the aircraft, which had caught fire and two charred bodies inside. The two victims are aged 55 and 78. Rescuers spotted a second aircraft about 3 kilometers away. The two occupants, aged 60 and 62, suffered minor injuries and have since been released from the hospital. An investigation is underway to determine the cause of the accident. Michael Hudson for Mata ng Agila International.
In Italy, a tourist boat capsizes, claiming 4 lives at Lake Maggiore. Local media report that a storm developed over the lake, overturning the boat. Rescuers say the boat was carrying about 25 passengers, while 5 people were rushed to the nearest local medical facility. Authorities say the rescue divers and a helicopter helped with the search at the lake's southern end. China will send its first civilian astronaut into space on Tuesday. He will be part of a crew headed to the Tiangong space station. Estela Dominique has the details.
Until now, all Chinese astronauts have been members of the country's military. Qi Haichao, China's first civilian astronaut, will be joining the crew as the payload specialist. He is a professor at Beijing University of Aeronautics and Astronautics. He will be mainly responsible for the on-orbit operation of space science experimental payloads. The 3-person crew is expected to blast off tomorrow from the launch center in northwest China at 9:31 a.m. local time. Estela Dominique from Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Former diplomat and presidential advisor Henry Kissinger just celebrated his 100th birthday. Kissinger outlasted many of his political contemporaries who guided the United States through one of its most trying times, including the presidency of Richard Nixon and the Vietnam War. The diplomat is known for being one of the cornerstones of American foreign policy in the 1960s and 1970s, including attempts to pull the U.S. out of Vietnam. In recent years, Kissinger has continued to hold sway over Washington's power brokers as an elder statesman. He has provided advice to Republican and Democratic presidents while maintaining an international consulting business. He is known to deliver speeches in the German accent, which he has not lost since fleeing the Nazi regime with his family when he was a teenager. A climate climate change protests in the Netherlands this weekend resulted in the arrest of more than 1,500 demonstrators. The protesters from the group Extinction Rebellion rallied outside The Hague on Saturday. Carlo Valdez has more.
The Netherlands climate activists are upset with government subsidies to the fossil fuel industry. Police say they plan to prosecute 40 of those arrested on charges including vandalism. At one point, authorities used a water cannon to clear the demonstrators who blocked the roadway. In anticipation, some wore swimsuits or carried an umbrella as they sat in the protest. The group claims about 7,000 people took part in the protest. In recent years, the Extinction Rebellion has caused huge disruption, hitting roads, airports, and public transportation networks during their protests. Carlo Valdez from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Coming up, Paris Saint-Germain star Kylian Mbappe is named Best French Player for the 4th consecutive time. Justin Treat's Anatomy of a Fall wins the 76th Cannes Palme d'Or. And largest human bicycle breaks Guinness record in Chile. Catch the latest in business, sports, and entertainment when Matanang Agila International returns. Singapore's Temasek Holdings says it will cut the pay of staff responsible for its investment in FTX. The cryptocurrency firm collapsed last year while its CEO Sam Bankman-Fried is charged with fraud. Temasek Holdings wrote off the $275 million it invested in FTX. The state-owned wealth fund said they were disappointed with their investment. Temasek did not indicate how much was deducted from their salaries. A space technology company has created an alternative way to send satellites and other payloads into orbit without the use of rockets. Stephanie Mayo tells us more.
U.S. company Spin Launch is developing a kinetic energy space launch system, which means it does not rely on chemical fuel found in traditional rockets. The concept is to essentially catapult the satellites and payloads into space by spinning them skyward through a tube. The company has raised $150 million in funding with investors that include Google Ventures, eventually signing an agreement with NASA to test a payload, claiming zero emissions and a technology that cuts down on fuel and infrastructure by 70%. It has a goal of significantly lowering the cost of access to space. If this works in the long run, this environmentally sustainable space access technology could triple the number of satellites being launched into space. Stephanie Mayo for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Paris Saint-Germain star Kylian Mbappe was voted the Ligue 1 Player of the Season for the fourth consecutive year. This comes after the forward helped PSG win a record 11th French title on Sunday. The 24-year-old star said that he always wanted to leave a mark on the pitch and was happy to make history in his home country. Mbappe scored 28 goals in the league this season and is on course to finish as the division's top scorer for the fifth season running. He's the first four-time winner of a prize first awarded in 1994, surpassing Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who won the accolade 3 times with PSG. In the French Open 2023, Ukraine's Marta Kostyuk refused to shake hands after a loss to women's tennis number 2 Belarusian Arina Sabalenka. Sabalenka defeated Kostyuk in 2 sets, 6-3, 6-2.
Yeah, well, we expected it. Still, maybe we're hoping that would be the case. And this crowd was behind Kostyuk during the match. I think she should have shook hands. Again, personal decision.
Kostyuk honored her pledge not to shake hands with Sabalenka as an act of protest at Russia's advancements in Ukraine, with Belarus being a key military ally of Moscow. She has also been a vocal critic of the decision to allow Russian and Belarusian players to keep competing on tour since the invasion of her country. Sabalenka, meanwhile, repeatedly said that no one supports war and understood if Kostyuk hates her. Justine Triet's Anatomy of a Fall wins the 76th Cannes film Palme d'Or. The prestigious top prize was handed out to the French courtroom drama that put a marriage on trial. Anatomy of a Fall, which stars Sandra Hüller as a writer trying to prove her innocence in her husband's death. The movie is only the third film directed by a woman to win the Palme d'Or. Triet reflected on being the third female director to win the Palme, following De Cornau for Titane and Jean Campion's The Piano. Remarkably, the award gives the indie distributor Neon its fourth straight win. Neon, which acquired the film after its premiere in Cannes, also backed Triangle of Sadness, De Cornau's Titane, and Bong Joon-ho's Parasite, which is steered to a Best Picture win at the Academy Awards. Warner Bros. Is set to commemorate its 100th anniversary in the Philippines this May 2023. The Flash is officially coming to Philippine cinemas soon, and to celebrate, Warner Bros. Unveiled a life-size Flash statue. The life-size figure of the iconic speedster, The Flash, can be seen from May 24 to June 4, 2023 in the Warner Bros. 100-year anniversary exhibit. For 100 years, Warner Bros. Has been a trailblazer at the forefront of the entertainment industry and is home to one of the most successful portfolios of brands with millions of fans worldwide. The WB 100 celebration aims to bring Filipino fans closer to the entertainment they love. People will be able to step into 100 years of Warner Bros. Story with an animation studio experience, costume areas, prop studios, and a replica of the iconic Warner Bros. Water Tower, similar to the one in Burbank, California. Fans can also bring home the exclusive WB100 collectibles and other commemorative merchandise. The fan-focused campaigns will include meet and greets with the classic Looney Tunes characters dressed as DC superheroes. Numerous photo spots from iconic Warner Bros. Scenes will also be showcased all over for fans to experience. In Chile, thousands of bikers gathered to break the Guinness World Record for the largest human image of a bicycle at Santiago's O'Higgins Park. Participants wore red shirts and caps as they stand over an outlined image of the vehicle. In 2019, Russia held the standing record, which united 2,620 people. Local officials say the gathering serves as a start to propagate the significance of bicycles as an eco-friendly mode of transportation within Santiago.
Pues lo mismo para promover esa unión de ciudad, sobre todo en deporte. Ahora se vienen los Panamericanos y hacer una previa con un evento así es bacán para ir motivando a la gente y ver que si nos organizamos sacamos lindas cosas y cosas.
And to kick off the week, we have a quote from Albert Camus, a French journalist, author, and playwright. What is happiness except the simple harmony between a man and the life he leads? Makes it sound so simple.
I know,
and yet
I love
it's so
it.
complicated.
I love it. And that is a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
And I am Nina Richie Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.